It's not a matter of if, but when life ambushes happen, will you and I be able to remain standing? Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Lydia and I make faith-based content here on YouTube. I do release new videos every Tuesday. If you're new, welcome. I hope you continue with us. I do encourage you to subscribe so you don't miss out on any new content coming on, and I hope this finds you perfect in the season that you needed. And if you're coming back, welcome back. Hope you're having an amazing one, and I hope that you're also as shocked as I am that we are literally left with 9 weeks of 2024. I'm like, where did this year go? But hey, you know what? As I was praying and asking the Lord what to study over the next couple of weeks, the word unshakable came into my spirit. And over the next couple of weeks of what's left of 2024, that's what we're going to be studying, because truth is, faith you and I, our faith is only as strong as the crisis our faith survives. Because you and I haven't made the decision to build our lives on Christ, the solid rock, does not make us immune from experiencing life ambushes, from experiencing life storms. It only determines how we go through those storms and how we survive. Living and choosing a life of faith does not repel storms, but rather it testifies and it proves the reality of our faith. Because in Hebrews, Paul said, when God spoke from Mount Sinai, his voice shook the earth. But now he makes another promise. Once again, I will shake not only the earth, but the heavens also. This means that all of creation will be shaken and removed so that only unshakable things remain. Our faith is only as strong as the crisis it survives. Crisis and life ambushes or life storms come in different degrees and in different forms. It can be a relational crisis, it can be a financial crisis, losing a job unexpectedly, or experiencing a health crisis, or losing a loved one, or just anything an unexpected change that one you don't want, and it comes at you basically feeling like it's an ambush. You were not prepared for it. But Christ said in Luke, and blessed is anyone who does not take offense at me. And the best way for us to not take offense is to realize that as long as you and I are on this planet Earth, we are going to experience storms. We are going to experience life shakings. We are going to experience the unexpected. So we cannot be offended. And we get offended because we expect things not to change. We expect things to be a certain way because we are children of God. We expect things for God, the all-powerful one, to not allow certain things to happen. I mean, personally, a few years ago, I lost a close friend of mine to cancer, and I was so heartbroken. It came to me like it was a 2-year battle, but I still was not expecting it, because I was like, she loves the Lord. She's one of the sweetest souls I know, like literally, and she serves the Lord faithfully. So, of course, we've prayed, we've been fasting, we've been believing. So, God is going to show himself mightily. So, when she died, it literally felt like, even saying a knife in my heart, it is not even putting it right. It literally felt like an emotional, a spiritual, and a faith ambush in the worst form. And I remember asking God, like, how could you let this happen? And he simply said to me, you don't know everything that's at play. This is between you and I, me and her. So let me heal you. And I had to be okay with that. It didn't really give me the answer that I needed, but it healed my heart. It allowed me to do the journey with him, to heal. And I had to learn in that space, that nothing is permanent. So you and I also have to have that sense of nothing in life is permanent and guaranteed except God, and that we need to guard our hearts against being offended by God when we experience certain things and we see things happen that we think, and we know that, Lord, you are all powerful. You should be able to stop this. And I also encourage you in the sense that determine to hold things and people loosely. Avoid holding too tightly. Have an open hand mentality. It may not sound encouraging, but I promise you it is wise to hold things and people lightly. James said, dear brothers and sisters, When troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you'll be perfect and complete, needing nothing. The trials in our lives can either break us, they can embitter us, or they can mature us. You and I have to make the choice to find the good in everything, even the bitter experiences. Not necessarily that the experience is good in itself, but in trusting that our good God is more than able to work out everything for our good. There's different ways people respond. Sometimes people are in denial or ignore, but that is unhelpful in the sense that when you're denying or ignoring it, it doesn't change. Things are still happening around you, and it can actually end up making the situation worse. And the second way people respond is they become angry and bitter, and that only leads to internal stress, that leads to becoming bitter, which ends up affecting your health, can also affect your relationship, because you end up being rude and turning on the very people that you love the most, which now cause relational issues, and you become verbally abusive, and other people, you end up accusing the wrong people of what you're going through because you are choosing to become angry and bitter instead of actually realizing life happens. Or you can end up developing destructive habits. You can resist it, and sometimes, yes, some things we need to fight, but some things, honestly, we can't resist them. We just have to walk through them, which also that means accepting. We can accept, okay, this is my new reality. How do I move on from this? And or we can choose to become a victim and just lay there and spend the rest of our lives stuck in one season. Don't allow one season of your life to define the whole theme, the whole aroma of your life. Choose to adjust and accommodate the new reality that you're living in. How then should we respond? There's a story in 1 Samuel 30 where I'm sure you've heard of the scripture, and David encouraged himself in the Lord. The backstory of the scripture is that David and his men, his warriors, were coming back from a battle that they have just won, and they were feeling great. I mean, when you've just conquered something, you're on a high. They come back and they come back to the camp, and guess what? They find that while they were away fighting another battle, there's another tribe that came in, took their wives, took all the children, took all the possessions. So imagine the scenario. These men are tired. They just came from a war. And they're happy, they're elated. And then they come home to find their area basically on fire. Their wives gone, their children gone, and their possessions gone. And David, the leader, guess what? They all turn on him. So in that instant, David has not only financially lost everything, basically a financial ambush, he's lost his wife and children, basically a family ambush. And on top of that, the very man that had been with him, heart and soul, the people that he needs more than anything right now, the people that he's always been able to rely on, turn on him. Talk about an ambush on every single side. So what he does is two things that I want to encourage you to do. Sit down and encourage yourself in the Lord. He sat down, encouraged himself in the Lord, and inquired of the Lord what to do. Because as much as he's gone through a lot of battles, he understood that every situation requires a different strategy. And also, talk to yourself. The last thing you want to do is listen to your emotions, to listen to the first thing that comes to your mind. When you're emotionally, psychologically, spiritually under an attack, you cannot trust your own thoughts. So instead of listening to yourself, talk to yourself. And once you've done that, then you are able to, one, oversee and manage. So David, once he has encouraged himself, spoken to the Lord, he recognized, okay, this is the situation, this is what has happened. He had to rise up from the shock, the hurt, and not stay in denial. So he had to get into action mode. So the first thing is, once you've inquired, once you've sat with the Lord and encouraged yourself, recognize what's happening and get out of shock mode. And then secondly, integrate yourself into the new reality. In the Old Testament, God would encourage them to only mourn for 30 days. And this is because he understands us. One, he created us. And two, he understands that one, we do need to take time down, sitting to process emotionally. We are not just spiritual beings. And Christians, we're not always good at this. We think praying fixes everything. Yes, prayer avails much, but we're still emotional beings. So sometimes you need to sit down, process, and mourn, but also not to stay too long and get stuck in that mourning process. So mourn, but don't live too long in the old. Accept the new reality so that you can integrate yourself into what does the new look like. And third, prepare and plan for the unexpected. As I said, or not rather, Jesus said, when things happen, when you face things. Life of faith does not make us immune from things. So expect that you've experienced unexpected financial challenges. Expect that you will experience things that are unexpected. You're going to experience unwanted change. So emotionally, psychologically, prepare yourself. And where possible, make sure that you have guardrails around your life so that when storms of life happen, you have the emotional strength to carry it. Make sure that you're constantly making sure that you're feeding yourself spiritually and that you have the good friendships around you. Because there's nothing worse than when you have not invested in friendships and then you need them in a storm. They're not there, but you cannot really make a withdrawal from where you've never actually made a deposit. Be mindful of that. And fourth, communicate. This is so important because yes, it may feel like you're the one experiencing it, but you're never in a crisis by yourself. Even if it affects you directly, personally, the people around you, the closest people around you are going to be affected as well by the ripple effect of it. So you need to communicate, just like David. When that happened, he sat down and then he had to inquire of the Lord. And once he had inquired of the Lord, then he had to talk to his men and say, this has happened. I've spoken to the Lord, so this is what we're going to do. So in your instance, you must communicate, this has happened. This is how I'm processing it. Even as you get along, because some things, depending on the degree of the crisis, it can be months, it can be a year, it can be a day. But communicate, I'm processing it this way. As you process along, communicate with those in your world. Don't be a silo and assume that they'll figure it out. Then you'll end up creating relational crises unnecessarily. And also communicate what things are now going to change in line of what has happened to you. And 5, take courage. Take courage. In John 16, Jesus said, I have told you these things so that in me you may have perfect peace and confidence. In the world, you have tribulation and trials and distress and frustrations, but be of good cheer. Take courage. Be confident, certain, undaunted. For I have overcome the world. I have deprived it of power to harm you and have conquered it for you. We take courage continuously being in God's presence. David had to sit down and allow God to minister to him. You don't have to push through everything by yourself. You need to sit down and allow the Lord to minister to you. You need to take courage. We don't just foster courage within ourselves. We take it by being in God's presence. We take Him by allowing Him to fill our tank emotionally, psychologically, and physically. We need to take time so that we can take courage before we have to go into action. Like David's men, they literally just came from war, and now they're expected to go again and fight. Refresh. Sometimes you don't really have the luxury of taking time out, but when you can, take time. But this one is one luxury that you cannot say I don't have the luxury for. You need to take time in God's presence and allow Him to minister to you, because as He ministers to you, you will take courage. And courage does not mean that everything will go smoothly or that you'll be fearless in every process of the new reality, but it does mean that you will not be daunted by what you are facing, but you'll allow God to lead you. And I'll leave you with this quote: character is not made in crisis, it is only exhibited. Last week we spoke about building a solid foundation. So whether you're finding yourself already in the midst of a crisis or in life ambush, or you're not in, be diligent to make sure that you are forging a strong character. You are forging a strong faith before life happens, so that when life happens, you and I can be indeed unshakable. Love you guys. Have an amazing one. I keep praying for you. Please do keep praying for me as well. Love you as always. Have a good one. Bye.